Psychiatrist. Also joining us, New Jersey-based criminal defense attorney Al Wunsch, and Joanna Greenwald is a criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor. So much to go over with our panel, but I want to does provide a mirror to society as a whole, this case, and that's why everybody is so transfixed. I want to go to Joanna Greenwald, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor, and talk about what's likely to come up first, because they're going to be talking about the money war first off. And we're talking about alimony, child support, and division of assets. So how is this going to play out after we have the opening statements and then Jim McGreevey takes a stand? What is his aim in taking the stand in talking about his assets?
Well, the reason that the whole thing about the assets and what's very important is that his wife is going to say that he stepped down on purpose to that way he doesn't have that financial income. And at this point, from what I've read, he lives with his boyfriend, he has no other assets, she has the home, and he doesn't have an income, and he's studying to be an Episcopalian priest. Therefore, he does to pay her a certain level of maintenance. But it was also interesting in New Jersey, they have a very short lifespan of their marriage, so alimony, and for me, New York maintenance, it's not mandatory. So now they're going to be fighting back and forth, and since such a brief period of time, she is not entitled, which is an important word, to pretty much half and half. It doesn't work that way. And the fact that he's showing that he stepped down, he did all these other things, they're going to say it's purposeful, and therefore the judge should impute that his income was really still at the governor's level rather than at absolutely zero, basically, where it is right now. So that's what it is.
Let me go to Albert Wunsch, criminal defense attorney, also a former prosecutor, and talk about how the whole case plays out with jury instructions. Because, as Beth has been pointing out, there is the possibility of these lesser includeds, if they decide or give them the option to decide that there's diminished capacity, so he's responsible, but maybe not for first-degree murder, maybe for something less manslaughter. I kind of envision a jury instruction that is the size of a very, very thick document.
Well, yes, the novel will begin, and what I foresee happening, the whole bottom line that they introduced the whole issue about effexor, is that's just to plant a seed in the juror's mind that Hack was unable to form the requisite intent that he was criminally insane to shoot everybody. So basically, it's a rebuttal to the requisite intent. Then the next step is then diminished capacity. The jurors are going, I could predict this, the jurors are going to find that he's guilty, but they're going to find under diminished capacity, where it's not about the high level, which is the State v. Ferrick level for Washington State, which is nature and quality of the actions, and right from wrong. No, diminished capacity says that because of their mental level, that there's enough proof to show that they were not able to carry out the level that was required in this case. So again, they were asserted the inability to form the required specific intent to commit the crime charged. Additionally, you keep hearing about the word premeditation. Unusually, in Washington State, premeditation is actually a prong for someone to be found guilty for aggravated murder. So in the jury instructions you're going to be hearing, that's why they keep saying premeditation a billion times, because that is imperative to get that out there, that the jurors would find that, which I don't believe that they're going to, because you have the effexor issue, which, just to touch upon, effexor was the wrong drug in this case. So I know you had a question as actually earlier, would you see a malpractice action? I predict, yes you will. I disagree. I see that there will be a malpractice, that there is enough, because this was the wrong drug, and with this drug, this is a black box drug, which means that when you look at this drug and there's the inside that comes out, that there has to be moderation. Where was the doctor? Where were the counselors? Who was watching? Where are the checks and balances? There weren't any, as far as what we see. So I think that you're going to see a malpractice action going on here, and I think that the jury instructions, which are going to be the level of insanity like we talked about.
All right, let me jump in here because I see some people shaking their heads. Beth Karas, I saw you shaking your head. I believe you were listening to Joanna Greenwald predict a malpractice suit.
Well, you know, I guess it's possible they can always bring a suit. I just don't think that it would go too far and there'd probably be a summary judgment, because it was not known at the time
Charles, I always try to put myself in the mind or the place of a juror. And the evidence to me is adding up that the prosecution definitely has to deal with in some way, shape, or form. This person has exhibited some truly insane behavior going way back. Thought broadcasting is one that pops up to me immediately. He thought he could hear voices from across the city. He could perceive thoughts. He could throw his thoughts. He could.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah, he could broadcast his thoughts. And when you hear that he had heard alien voices, sometimes in a weird language, but sometimes they spoke to him and gave him commands, told him to do things like masturbate, and then complimented him on a good job, you really think psycho is the word that comes to mind. It's how does the prosecution undo that and put that genie back in the bottle?
Well, you can't. It's that simple. You can't. Basically, everything that they're laying out that you're going to see and has been brought to the jurors' attention is that the bottom line is they're saying, this guy is a complete wackadoo. And you're going to say, and now what level? Are we completely insane or are we at diminished capacity? And just as Mr. Wunsch had said, the effects are, I actually think that that's really going to play a role. And like I had said before, that you will see, and I didn't get to explain it, you will see an action, and it will be a wrongful death for malpractice, not by his family, but from all of the victims. Because you got to have someone additionally to blame, because you're going to say, this guy's going away, but who else was responsible? They're going to look to see who else was responsible. You're going to see a wrongful death thing because he was on wrong medications or other things like that, and this effects thing is going to work to get the jurors to put him for diminished capacity. You will see that.
Well, Joanna Greenwald, maybe some of the victims who survived are watching right now, and you're giving them some food for thought.
Call me. I know what I'm talking about. I'm just kidding.
All right. All right. Well, you know, we're going to be right back. And sometimes you watch professional tennis players like McEnroe, and they're just right on target, and then other times you just watch two people knocking a ball over a net, and that's what I get the feeling of. Not to make light of any of this, but it seems like everybody needed a couple of shots of espresso before this examination.
Well, you picked the right person, like what you said in John McEnroe. Mm-hmm. Like, no, that's actually a great example, because you're watching and you think you're going like a tete-a-tete. You're going back and forth, and watching the groove of, and that's also keeping the jurors' attention. And there's no histrionics going on here. And just like you said, and so then he didn't listen to his mission, you know, something like that keeps the jurors entertained, and that they have their own notes of what's going on there. You don't see any of that. You just see that Dr. Misson is actually holding his ground, not budging. I don't think they're asking the best of questions. I agree with the doctor and with Mr. Wunsch. They're not doing the best questions to get that, you know, to get his ires, you know, to get into there. They're not doing that, and so they're not doing a good John McEnroe, which is no one's throwing the racket, no one's yelling at the ref and the ump saying, you made a wrong call, no one's screaming, and that's what I think they need to do to keep the jurors involved and starting to listen to their side.
And I think part of the problem is that nobody really understands this issue at its core. It's really a semantical question in a lot of sense. Is somebody perceive or understand the quality and the nature? What do all those words mean? So I think this is such a difficult issue to really get your mind around. The question of sanity or insanity. Again, I've said it before, those jurors have their work cut out for them. If Naveed Haq does take the stand, what one question would you ask him? When we come back, we're going to hear what you had to say about that as we reveal the closing statement by the defense, going to be an indictment of everybody but Naveed Haq.
Yes. Simply put, yes, it's going to be a troubled man who needed help and basically fell through the cracks. And he was lost, and he was a lost soul, and basically someone who was ill. And because of that, bad things happen. And unfortunately, bad things in this case happen to very good people.
It is a tragedy all the way around. We want to thank everybody involved today. Thanks to correspondent Beth Karras reporting live from Seattle today. Thanks also to our wonderful guests, Al Wunsch, Joanna Greenwald, and Dr. Joseph Del Tito here in New York on set with me. Time now to check in with Jamie Floyd to find out what's